Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, the Early Reading Accelerators. This is our monthly Core Advocates webinar for October. We are thrilled that you are joining us here today. We're going to get started in just a couple of seconds, but as a quick heads up, you can find the group chat in your screen. It is the blue box with the two speech bubbles, and we'd love for you to start introducing yourself. Tell us your name, where you're coming from, your role. And if you'd like to get a quick preview of some of the things that we'll be sharing, some of the resources we'll be sharing, you can find those in the green box with the paper. That's the resource widget. So please let us know who's here, and we can't wait to do some learning together today. Already seeing those group chats roll in. We've got folks from Buffalo, Boston, Phoenix. Some folks are connecting about Florida. Thanks so much for being here. Zach from San Antonio, good to see you. Great. Thanks so much. Please keep introducing yourselves and feel free to use the chat throughout our time together today. Good to see you all today. We'll get started just by a quick welcome. I am Tori Filler, and I'm a literacy specialist here at Student Achievement Partners. I'm here with my fabulous colleague and friend, Adrienne Sublet. Hey, Adrienne.
Hi, Tori. So happy to be here today. I'm Adrienne Sublet from Memphis, Tennessee.
Great. And I am coming to you from Portland, Maine. So let me know if there's any Mainers on the line here tonight. Adrienne and I are going to be acting as hosts today because we are really here to share the insights and ideas of these four fabulous educators who you'll be meeting throughout the webinar today. So we'll let them introduce themselves in a little bit, but just as a little preview, they are Janelle Ramirez, Dr. Melissa Collins, Tony Clymer, and Adrienne Austin. So thanks so much for being here, and we can't wait to learn from you today. We'd love to start off with a quick idea of who is here today. So there should be a poll on your screen, and it asks you how many Core Advocate webinars you have attended. So there's some answers on the screen. You can click right on the screen to let us know what your answer to the poll is. This is your first one. You've been to 2 to 5 webinars, 6 to 10, and up and up and up. So let us know if you've joined us before, and we can't wait to see who you all are out there. Great. All right. Great. So you should be seeing on the screen some results to our poll. Welcome to friends and folks who this is your first webinar. We're so glad that you're joining us, and we have some friends back, 20 plus. Wow. Some folks have been to a lot of Core Advocate webinars. If this is your first webinar, we'd love to just invite you to join our Core Advocates Network. You can find the link to sign up in your resource widget. It's labeled number 1. The Core Advocate Network is really a community of educators that's focused on college and career-ready, standards-aligned, excellent and equitable instruction in math and ELA literacy. And if you sign up for our network, you'll get notices about new free resources, opportunities for professional learning, and of course our quarterly Core Advocates magazine, which is a digital magazine, and that's called Core Connections. So sign up if you haven't already so we can stay in touch. And just a quick preview, if this is your first time with us, about the On24 platform and how it looks. So there are some buttons down at the bottom. If you've been using the group chat, you already know this. But on the bottom, there is the group chat. There's also a button for Twitter. You'll see that there's a purple button with the Q&A on it. That is the question and answer widget. And if you type a question in there, it's just going to go to us presenters. So you can use that to ask a question if you have a question for the presenters or if you need tech help. So if you have questions throughout the webinar, feel free to jot them in there. The resources widget is that green one again, and you'll want to have that handy because we'll be highlighting lots of free resources during this webinar that you might want to access. On the right-hand side, you see the certificates, which we'll talk about in just a second. And of course, if you're a Twitter user, you can tweet along with us using the hashtag #AchieveTheCourse. If you are on the line today for at least 45 minutes, you'll be able to download a certificate automatically through that certificate widget, and it will be available in the certification box. There's a little blue ribbon icon, and you can download or print it right from there. You'll also get an email with the recording to this webinar with whatever email you registered for this webinar today. And at the end of the month, we'll be actually sending you a note about a short survey. And if you answer that survey, you'll be entered into a raffle for a $25 Amazon gift card. I think that is all the logistics. If you have any questions, let us know about in the Q&A widget if you have questions. But on to really the goals of this webinar today. The first thing that we'd love to do today and why you all are here is in the title, we want to identify what the early reading accelerators are. And our next big goal is really just to collaboratively share best practices and resources for engaging in early literacy work. And we've heard from you all, from the folks that are in our network around the country, that you all would really like to talk about how to do early literacy in virtually in remote learning. So we've invited these 4 fabulous educators here today to share some of their lessons learned. And we hope that in the chat, you will share ideas and knowledge with each other throughout the day. All right. Adrienne, I think I'm handing it off to you for a poll.
Great. Thanks, Tori. This is such an exciting time right now. We're so happy to have you all join us today. And so as we get things started, I want you to think about how you're currently engaging in instruction. So if you would take the poll that's on your screen and select how you're currently engaging in instruction. Are you all virtual, blended, all in person, or is this not applicable for you? Please select your answer. Give you a couple more seconds. All right, so let's
good wait time, Adrienne.
Thank you. I've been practicing.
I think we all have.
Yes. So we have more than half of you are all virtual right now, with about a third of you in blended situations. We have a little over 6% that are all in person, and a little over 6% where it's not applicable. So we have a wide variety here, and you will hear different things that will help support you in your respective situations. And I want to take this time right now to tell every single person on this call that you are amazing. So take a moment and pat yourselves on the back, kiss your brains. You have been doing a lot of hard work, but everything that you do is for your students and they will benefit from it. And hopefully you'll get some more tips and strategies to use to continue growing and thriving in this work. So compared to, I'm sorry. All right. So compared to, I'm going to pass this right on off to Tori.
Thanks, Adrienne. So we'd love to start today out with a question, and we'd love for you to share in the chat. So find that group chat icon, that blue box with the speech bubbles, and we'd love to start out by asking you which content you have been prioritizing with your early readers this year. We know that there have been many challenges and that thinking about what to prioritize this year has really been paramount in a lot of the conversations that we've been having about early literacy work. So what types of things have you been thinking this has to happen this year, despite maybe challenges of scheduling or how much time you see your kids? So what have you been prioritizing this year so far? the first quick answers. Reading, foundational skills. Great. Keep these ones coming. See a comment. Thanks, Jordan. Such grade level content. Great. So lots of folks are talking about foundational skills. Kari, thanks for calling out accelerating learning, trying to be engaging. Social emotional. Thank you so much, Cindy, for calling that out. Tech set. Great. Feel free to keep answering this question in the chat and thinking about what kind of you have been prioritizing in your work. We are going to talk a little bit about what the early reading accelerators are as we jump off from thinking about this idea of what should be prioritized in early literacy classrooms right now. And we know that time has really always been a scarce commodity in classrooms, right? I feel like educators are always saying there's not enough time. And we know that we're all facing new challenges and trying to figure out, exploring new opportunities related to the pandemic. And there's maybe never been a time where we've had to think harder about what really matters for students and how that translates into what we do with kids every day. So the good news, in part, is that reading science has really long emphasized two critical pieces of systematic early reading instruction, and we're calling these the early reading accelerators. Many of you called these out in the chat as you thought about what you are prioritizing. And those two accelerators are securing foundational skills for all students and building knowledge and vocabulary. And we know that these are really essential content for all readers, that they need to access these in order to become proficient. And we also know that every student and their experiences are unique, and that we can accelerate the development of reading proficiency for really all kids by implementing these two things strategically through classroom instruction and materials. So these two sort of content goals for early reading name some of the what is most essential for early reading instruction. And foundational skills, it sounds like we've got some foundational skills fans on the call today. I'm one of them too, so you're in good company. Really foundational skills, we know, research tells us, these are the building blocks of early reading and writing, and secure foundational skills are crucial for student success in literacy. So they're really key enablers of equity. And if you're an early literacy teacher, like many of you here today, you already know that this is really complicated stuff. Teaching students to read in English is complex, nuanced work, and it involves having a scope and sequence of skills, including print concepts, phonological and phonemic awareness, which I saw so many of you call out and made my heart happy, phonics and word recognition and fluency. And it also means using our students, really having a gauge of what our students need to determine what we're going to focus on, the type and amount of practice we're going to provide, and differentiation. So as you all have called out in the chat, this is as so important this school year as we think about school interruptions and potentially limited instructional time. The Building Knowledge and Vocabulary Accelerator really has three key ingredients for early readers. And those three key ingredients are read aloud, one with complex text, and thinking about how we can read and reread these rich, complex texts that are really much more complex than students can read on their own. And it's that level of complexity and that richness that's really provides fertile ground for maximizing the knowledge and vocabulary growth that we know can accelerate all of our students' growth. And these deep experiences with read aloud can also build a community of learners by listening to and thinking about and conversing about, chatting about, going to breakout rooms about a text together. The next two ingredients of this accelerator are really all about, those two ingredients are text sets and book baskets. I saw some of you all call those out in the chat. Those really focus on a volume of reading, miles on the page, to grow vocabulary and knowledge. Text sets, if you haven't used those before, are really kind of what they sound like, multiple resources on a topic. Those could be text, videos, maps, interactive resources, but they're all focused on a topic, and that topic could be Serena Williams or sharks or outer space. But the idea is that we're growing knowledge on a topic. And the other key ingredient for this accelerator is called book baskets. And I think some of you mentioned that in the chat as well. And book baskets are really all about independent or choice reading that's organized by topic, not by level. So the idea is really not to restrict students to a level, but to promote knowledge building of vocabulary and student choice by arranging books by topic. So these two accelerators, hopefully this gives you a gist of kind of the type of work that we're talking about to accelerate students' learning. And today we're really going to focus on shining a light on some practices that 4 amazing educators are using to do some of this magical work in their classrooms this year in a virtual world. We also know, and some of you called out in your things that you're really focusing on, that while these 2 ingredients, these 2 early reading accelerators of foundational skills and knowledge and vocabulary are essential, and research has long showed us that these things really are critical for students, that these things alone can't provide, they're not enough for equitable experiences for all students, and in particular for students who've been historically marginalized by school and they haven't had their needs met by school. So we asked this question of how can we best support all students, all K-2 students learning, amplify what matters most for early reading, and foster social emotional development, thanks to those of you who called that out in the chat. So to implement this content of foundational skills and knowledge and vocabulary equitably, and really let each student in our care let their brilliance shine, we also have to consider student support, culturally relevant practices, and aligned instructional materials that are aligned to this work of the early reading accelerators and support these instructional priorities. And we know this is important always, and it's especially important today as we've seen this pandemic exacerbate some existing inequities in our educational system. So today, you'll not just get to hear from these 4 amazing folks about how they're thinking about foundational skills and knowledge and vocabulary, but you'll also hear some ideas about how they are supporting students, how they're bringing in cultural practices, and really what they're doing to focus on these things through aligned instructional materials with kids. So before we get to the meat of hearing from the educators, we really also wanted to just share that these early reading accelerators are now up on our website, Achieve the Core, on 3 new resource pages, which Adrienne and I have been working hard in collaboration with many folks to get finished and up, and they are there. And these 3 pages, which are also linked in your resource tab, are really chock full of resources around the early reading accelerators. And the early reading accelerators page, that first one that's linked, has some introduction to this content and has tons of resources to support this work this year in particular. So you'll see model remote learning videos and resources for virtual instruction. The foundational skills page has things to grow your own knowledge, materials you can use with kids, and things you can use to support your practice and students. And the knowledge and vocabulary page has things about each of those ingredients we shared: read aloud, text sets, book baskets, as well as resources for culturally responsive practices, critically evaluating text, and supporting students, including English learners. So that's a lot. Those pages are there. You might want to think about bookmarking them, coming back to them, and letting us know what feedback you have. And throughout the webinar, we'll be highlighting some of the resources that are included in these pages as we hear from our 4 educators. So let's dig in. We'd love to just offer you another chance to chat. And if you could share in the chat, what are your biggest challenges with early reading instruction right now? And we'll think about whether some of those challenges, maybe folks in the chat have some ideas, or maybe some things will be shared from our 4 educators today about how we might mitigate some of these challenges. Go ahead, go to the chat. What are some of your biggest challenges? Wait, we see how to fit it all in. Lynn, I know I've heard that. Differentiation. Thanks, Jill. Adrian, what kind of things are you seeing in the chat?
I see some about holding students accountable for learning in a virtual setting, community awareness, handwriting, yes, loud noises in the background environment, community awareness.
We've all been there.
Yes, yes. Locating appropriate online resources. I think we have you covered on that one, at least some. Decoding sight words, student engagement. Yeah, parent engagement. So a lot. Yes, many things.
Great. Well, let's dig in. So this is our real question.
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say, we're really going to think about today, how do we engage in this critical work of the early reading accelerators remotely with blended learning with all of these challenges, and we hope that you'll hear some things that you can take back with you, and please continue to share in the chat ideas that you have. But Adrian, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Tori. So our first amazing educator that we're going to take some time and hear from is Dr. Melissa Collins. Dr. Collins is a second grade teacher at Shelby County Schools in Memphis, Tennessee. So Dr. Collins, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Adrian, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for joining us. So first, you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, like as far as your school and the students that you serve?
Okay, I work in Memphis, Tennessee with the wonderful Shelby County School District. And my students are all Black, and they are bubbly and bright and very motivated to learn. But my district is an urban district, and so we are faced with challenges. But we work hard to ensure that our students are successful.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I know you shared a couple of things with us, and we want to highlight that for the group tonight. Let's talk some about some things that you've been working on to engage your students in early literacy in the virtual aspect. And so there are a couple of things that we have here that you talked about. Do you mind sharing more with us about your EPIC book baskets and class projects?
Yes, so I love using EPIC because it can reach students with grade-specific topics across all content areas. And it's free. The platform is free, and teachers can create a basket of knowledge based off of different content areas. And what I also like about it, you can also focus on creating a culturally responsive classroom, creating books for children of color, Black and brown, because sometimes they often don't get to see themselves in the books that we read, and so I like to make those baskets for them. You can go to epic.com. It's free, 8 to 4, through June 2021, and students get 2 hours free on the weekends. If they want to utilize it more, it is a fee for the families. And I also like that I can select how I want those books in front of my students. So it could be through, I can pick for lexile level, comics, read to me, video or audio books. And so kids can go to those baskets. They have autonomy to do that. Go to how I form the baskets and select the book that they would like to read.
So I like that about the student choice. So do you have any particular topics that you selected for these baskets that the students really dug into?
Repeat that one more time, Adrian.
I said, do you have any topics? Did you have any topics that the students really liked? in your book basket? Any particular topics that they were drawn to? I know you do a lot of work with STEM. Did you have any that read more STEM books?
Yes.
So tell us more about that.
Now so right now we're doing life cycle. So my boys are really loving the animals in their habitat collection, which you can see on the screen. And also we're working on climate change. And then I have a multicultural basket and SEL basket. And so I can see some kids really getting on there more than others. And so I'm trying to think about different rewards that I could give them, because I like using Class Dojo. And so if they earn points, maybe sending them a gift card or a greeting card just to let them know that I appreciate the effort that they're putting into reading. And what I also like is that I can assess the students on a particular book. And I can get ethics to create those assessments, or I can create them myself. And so I love automatic grading because it's quick, and I use that information for data. And I also could create individual baskets for students. So if I have a student that really love comic books, I can make a basket just for them. So I like the way that I can personalize that learning for students to keep them engaged and to really help them develop to be proficient readers.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And you mentioned that about assessment, and I want to kind of move on to something else that you shared with us about student supports to assess like the foundational skills instruction. You want to share some with us about that?
Yes. So I have my family to purchase whiteboards, and if they couldn't purchase whiteboards, I told them they could use a protector sheet and put white paper within that sheet so that I could have quick informal assessment for foundational skills. And it gives the kids something to do to help motivate, engage them, instead of them just looking at me on the screen. And so it's quick and interactive. And also I use team forms. I send those to the students, and so they can practice those foundational skills through assessment. So sometimes through team forms. Sometimes I keep them as a grade, but sometimes it's just to give me personal information on how they're performing. And I do it in different ways. So they may write text, or it could be multiple choice.
Awesome. I know there's one more thing that you do that is it's absolutely amazing. What you do with articulation with your students, with sound articulation, and then looking at the way the mouth is shaped for those sounds. Do you mind sharing more about that?
Yes. So my district use Microsoft Teams. And what I like about Microsoft Teams, and Zoom and other platforms do it as well, but I can spotlight myself or other students, and I can allow them to look at my mouth and their mouth closely to work with sound articulation. And so that is really helping, and the students love it, that I get to highlight them on the screen.
Thank you so much. I noticed Tori dropped a YouTube link. That's a great resource that can help with that sound articulation too. I know that's something that a lot of teachers are struggling with, so thank you for sharing that with us. Do you have anything else you want to share with us? Any lessons learned? Any more lessons learned that you want to share before we move on?
I know that right now we're going through unprecedented times, and so it has been challenging, and I'm just grappling with different ways that I can get kids engaged and make them really develop into proficient readers. So I love using the platform Class Dojo for a digital portfolio, because there's different modalities that you can use to engage students with foundational skills. For instance, I can have them record themselves reading a story, or I can record myself and post it in the class story. And I also can get them to post different projects that they're doing, and I could take those pictures from the project and create a PowerPoint and give them an opportunity to stand and deliver and showcase the great work that they're doing in reading, and just to help them navigate and improve with foundational skills.
Dr. Collins, I see now why you are a 2020 inductee to the National Teachers Hall of Fame, based on all of this great work that you are doing this year and in the previous years. So I just want to take a moment and congratulate you on being inducted into the National Teachers Hall of Fame. And thank you so much for all of this work that you're doing for the students in Shelby County. Very, very fortunate to have you. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. And I read all the great comments in the chat box. Keep them coming. Thank you, teachers. We are stronger together.
Yes, thank you. That is so true. Thank you so much. And as we move on, there are a few resources that I want to call your attention to that's related to what Dr. Melissa Collins just shared with us. We have a text sets guide that's linked in your resource tab. There are different text sets that can help you with making your own, or that's pre-made online. We also have a Best for All Sounds First Phonemic Awareness program. So that's another resource that can help you with the type of work that Dr. Collins just shared with us. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Collins. And you all keep on sharing in the chat.
Yes, I love all the love in the chat. It's so lovely. We were having a side conversation in the chat about thank you, Dr. Collins, for calling out the need for students of color to see themselves joyfully reflected in the text that they read. And I just love this idea about using book baskets on Epic to let knowledge grow and have amazing experiences for kids. So thank you so much for that idea. I am thrilled to introduce Janelle Ramirez, who's going to tell us a little bit about herself. Janelle, hey, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing today?
Hi, good. Thank you.
I hear a little tired in your voice. It's almost the end of the week. I know you are an amazing teacher. So you're working hard.
Thank you.
Will you tell us?
Yes.
Will you tell us a little bit about yourself and the students that you serve, the school that you work in?
Yes. So I work for San Antonio Independent School District. We're an inner city district. Our district is primarily serves low-income students. Our school is a dual language campus. So we have students pre-K to 8th grade. We're a dual language academy, and we're a Title I school. And my classroom, I actually have 9 English language learners and 6 Spanish language learners. So I always tell my students we're all learning a new language in this classroom, and that's the awesome part about it.
I love that so much. Thank you so much. And we're really so excited that you are here today, because one of the questions that we've most been asked recently is how to support English learners or language learners in our classrooms. So we'd love to hear some of the things that have been working for you this year virtually.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and start. So just a little bit of background as well for our campus. All our classrooms are practice the 7 steps. So just creating those structured conversations and giving students the opportunity to have structured reading and writing activities. That's a big thing on our campus. Pre-K to 8th grade, we all practice the 7 steps. So I just wanted to give that as a background for what I'm going to present. And one of the 7 steps that we have is the QSSSA, and if you're not familiar, it's ask students a question, you ask them for a signal, and then you give them a sentence, then you share, and then you assess. So this has always been done in my classroom and in all classrooms at Irving. And now the question that we struggled with was, how do we transfer this into a virtual learning? So how do we, because they would talk to their partner. So now how do we do that in the virtual setting? So,
that's a big thing I was going to ask you if you could just quickly walk us through maybe like a quick example of what QSSA, in case folks aren't familiar, what that looks like.
Yes. So I have an anchor chart here that I have in my classroom. And first we ask the students a question, like we were reading the book Querido Primo from ERA, and it's talking about traditions. So the question that I had was, what traditions are in your family? Then we asked them for a signal. And one of the signals that I have them do now is an emoji on Zoom. Before, of course, in the class, it was like, give me a thumbs up or touch your head. But now since we transitioned to virtual learning, the signal that I have them do is an emoji on Zoom. And then they have to answer with a sentence stem in my family. And then share. I usually have them, I use the sticks and I pull out a name, and then I assess them by making sure they were listening to their partner.
Great, so that's super helpful. I can't wait to hear how you have been implementing this virtually.
Yes. So it's something that I really had to put a lot of thought into it, and it's working awesome. It's working great, and I'm excited to share that. So, the questions that I had was, how do I, make it fun? And I need to use Zoom features. So that was, for the teachers out there that are using Zoom, I hope this is helpful for you. And also setting clear expectations and procedures. So those were my 3 goals that I was like, okay, if I want to implement QSSA into virtual learning, then I need to have these 3 goals in mind. So I use 2 Zoom features for QSSA, one of them being the emojis. And I know a lot of students, they already knew how to use them, but some of them didn't. So what I told them is go to the 3 little dots, and then you're going to see the emojis. And I use them not just for QSSA, I also use it to ask them, okay, if you're ready, show me an emoji. If you're finished doing this, if you can hear me, use an emoji, and they love to use them. So it's a great engagement tool for students. And then I also decided to start using breakout rooms. And I know it sounds a little hectic, in first grade breakout rooms, but the students love them. And now they always ask me like, oh, are we going to do a breakout room today? So one of the tips that I have is there's settings on the breakout rooms. And one of them that is very helpful is that you can automatically move all assigned participants into breakout rooms. So they don't have to press the join button. They can just automatically move into that session. And this is the way I structured it. So it's I pose a question. So let's say the question was, what is a tradition in your family? And then I have them write it. So we write it first, and I model how to write it on Zoom by using an iPad, and I project my journal. So I project my journal, and then we all write the sentence. So in my family, and they'll all write the sentence, and then I tell them, talk to your stuffed animal. So that's another feature or another idea that I use, is that I have them talk to their stuffed animal. And they finish the sentence talking to their stuffed animal, and then after that they go into a breakout session with a partner. And then we come back and share with the class. So I have some pictures here, maybe so we can picture it a little better. This is how we use emojis for signals. And these are all the students. They're using their emojis. They get super excited. And so this is them talking to their stuffed animals, answering that question that I posed for them. and I usually put it on a PowerPoint slide. So that way they have it there and they can answer the question. And then they go into their breakout room. And you can see that they have their journals with a sentence that we wrote, so in case they forget. And also, so we have a blended model. We have some students in the class and some students at home. So what I did is I paired the students that are in the class with a student that's at home. That way I can monitor them and make sure that they're using their complete sentences. And then we come back and we share out and we finish writing our sentence.
There is so much love in the chat right now for way to build community, the idea of using emojis or another signal for when you're ready to talk.
Yes.
So many folks are excited about the idea of breakout rooms. Thank you for giving us the confidence that first graders can absolutely do breakout rooms, and not only that, but they will love it. I love this so much. I know we've talked a little bit about you thinking about strategically using breakout rooms. What are your sort of initial thoughts? I know you've just started working on some of this work with USSSA, but what are some of your initial thoughts about using breakout rooms strategically?
So, initially I was scared to do it. And I know, as a first grade teacher, it's, you think, what if they're not talking, or what if, you always get scared that something's going to go wrong. But I think it's just trying it out. And the first time that we did it, it was a mess. It was, honestly, we had trouble. Some of the students were like, oh, they're not talking. They have their camera off. And I would go in there and look at them and say, or talk to them and say, we need to have our camera on. We need to be talking. And they actually, now they get excited. And it's also strategically pairing them with someone that that they're going to want to talk to. So that has a lot to do as well. You really have to think about it, but it's doable. And to all the teachers out there, you have to, it's all a trial and error.
You're warming my heart. Thank you for giving us all the confidence to try new things and to make really these rich experiences for students to talk about text in our classrooms, even with all the challenges with technology and everything. There's so much love in the chat for you, Janelle. I really appreciate you. If you're looking for other ways to support, thank you. If you're looking for other ways to support English learners in the virtual environment, you can also take a look at your resource tab. It will link you to our English learner support section of our Early Reading Accelerators collection. So go ahead and click that if you're looking for more. And we're really excited now to talk to Tony. Go. Adrienne, you there?
I'm here. Hi,
Great.
Tony. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us today. We have really had a fantastic time learning about these different strategies and finding new resources, and we're really excited to hear more from you. But before we get started, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I've been an educator for 18 years. It's a second career for me, but I can't imagine doing anything else. I have taught in the public, private sector, K-5, and I'm currently at a charter school where I teach first grade ELA. Yes, just ELA. That's all.
Yay.
I have 3 sections of ELA.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay. Maybe you could tell us more about that, too. I said maybe you'll tell us some more about managing that, too.
Yes. So the majority of the students in my classes are about 85% African American and 15% English language learners. But yeah, so I have 3 classes of ELA. One class is just all of our Hispanic students, which makes it easier for the ESL teacher. And we are a Title I school.
Awesome. So I know you shared with us about ways that you partner with your families. Do you mind sharing with us some specifics about things that you did to build those relationships and support students?
Yeah, so I know that you have heard this said before. They don't care what you know until they know that you care. And that goes a long way with the parents as well, not just with the students. So before you can even dive into the work of here's your tablet, this is how you do this, blah, 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 all that stuff, the parents really have to know that you're invested and you care about their child. So from day one, as soon as I had names and phone numbers, I started working on those connections. I sent them a picture of me with a little bio and asked them to do the same thing. I printed those pictures out of the kids and I attached them to the chairs in my classroom so I could learn their names and faces so that when we got on camera, I would recognize them and they would recognize me. And we just had Zoom sessions and FaceTime and Google Duo. I mean, I just tried to utilize whatever the parents had access to because in the beginning, we didn't even have devices. And in fact, they're still on back order. So our students are using, some technology that we already had on hand from RTI last year. So it's been a lot of time and effort put into building those relationships, but I can tell you how beneficial they have been just by the response from the parents and the students.
So I know one thing that you mentioned before our call tonight is that you had trouble with getting in contact with parents or having specific times to really meet and share. You want to share with us how you address that so you can have more contact?
Yes. Some of the problems were that, parents were working and they're at home with a grandma and they can't talk or they can't Zoom or things like that. And so I created Sign Up Genius and gave them alternative times on the weekend. I know that might not be a fan for some teachers, but I just really wanted to be as available as possible to them. And so they signed up on Sign Up Genius and made an appointment with me, and I was able to also do my assessments that way, like just kind of see what words from kindergarten do you remember, and I had them do some reading passages and just kind of test their fluency. And so some of those were done on Zoom, some were on FaceTime, some were on Google Duo. Again, like I said, just trying to be as available as possible. And they really appreciated, me going out of my way to do that for them because, this is challenging for all of us right now.
Yes, definitely. I love how you address those foundational skills, diagnostic assessments. That is phenomenal. And access is key. So I know there's something else that you shared with us about visual support for technology use. Would you elaborate a little bit more about that with us?
Sure. Once we finally got the devices, they quickly switched platforms on us. Like we thought we were going to use Teams. And right before that, we found out that we're not using Teams. And so they log in through a platform called Canvas, and then a conference button gets pushed and it puts them in something called the big blue button. So I was looking at all the different features that were available to the students. And so we spent just the first couple of days playing with all the different features. And so I printed them. I took pictures of them with my phone, printed them, laminated them. And I still use that bottom one today. Every single day, I'm like, see that microphone? Push that microphone right there. We can't hear you. And so just having these visuals to be able to hold up, like if I want them to chat and answer in the chat box, I can hold up that little card and say, this is where you need to be. And so it just really made it a lot easier to show because they are so little, but they have blown me away with their capabilities. Never underestimate the first grader.
Yes, they are some resilient children, and they have a lot they can teach us, too. So thank you so much for sharing that.
So one more thing that's been really...
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say one more thing that's been so helpful. I saw a lot of comments in the chat box about being able to keep the students engaged, and there's something called Smart Tech Learning Suite that we are using. And it allows you to upload your PowerPoint, your lesson in there, but then you can turn it into an interactive activity for the kids. You can create games and add those into your lesson. And so, the normal computer matching games that if you were in the classroom, the kids would come to the smart board and they would maneuver the pieces and things like that. I see someone asking if it's free. I had a free membership for like 30 days, and then they told me it expired, and I hit a button and I got another 45 days. So I'm still using it until they tell me I can't. But it's Smart Tech Learning Suite. And so, but what is so cool is they can use those interactive games by themselves and on their iPad, and they can still hear me talking while they're doing that. And we're also doing our assessments that way, and it's grading them for us. And so it keeps them engaged, and it's helping us as well. So the Smart Tech Learning Suite has been amazing for us.
Thank you so much, Tony, for sharing those amazing ideas and those resources and ways to support your students. We have some additional ways to support your students through assessment guidance. If you'll look in your resource tab, you'll find a link to that information. Again, thank you, Tony, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, Tony. We have another Adrian on the line today. Hey, Adrian Austin, Adrian A.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. We are so thrilled that you are here today. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you work, the students you serve?
Sure. I teach in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is my 8th year of teaching. I just moved to second grade this year with my students, so that was kind of a change after 7 years in first grade. But I actually teach at a STEM school, so it's a little bit different. We became a STEM school 3 years ago, and we've taken a huge jump towards project-based learning, hands-on activities, a huge push with science and knowledge-based learning rather than simply learning the skills, trying to embed it in some sort of deeper knowledge dive. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. My students are half STEM magnet, half neighborhood school, so I have a good mix of students in the classroom, and it's great. I love it. It's a cool change that has brought a lot of new opportunities for us at our school.
Cool. I see lots of love for second grade in the chat. So you got some second grade friends. Will you tell us, I heard you sort of mention this idea of how you built knowledge this year. Will you tell us about some of the things that you've been doing?
Absolutely. So one thing I was really struggling with was student engagement on the virtual platform. We're lucky enough that we were one-to-one, so every student had an iPad that they were able to log in. We made sure every student had internet. So thankfully that wasn't a problem. But one thing that I was really struggling with was the students were tired of staring at a screen. The curriculum wasn't as stimulating as we might like it to be. And so I was trying to find a way to get the students really engaged. And so what I decided was to take the morning meeting time and really ramp it up. And I asked the students first what they wanted to learn about. And so we took a lot of their ideas and we kind of dove into this idea of a weekly learning study for morning meeting. And we started with our perfect school. And so we decided if we were going to build a school, what would it be? And there's a great read aloud. I always start with some sort of reading, whether it be a text or an article or a newspaper clipping or something, but some sort of rich, authentic text to get them involved in it. And then we go into their own ideas, their own creations. And so they did a really good job with creating their own school. Some of them were wild with water slides and basketball courts, and some of them were a little more subdued with beanbag chairs and computers. And then we, as a STEM school, I always try to implement some sort of technology piece, whether we're in or out of the classroom. And so one thing that we used was chatter pics, where students can take a picture of their work and then they make it seem like they're talking. And I actually have a video I can share with the audience today on the next slide.
In my perfect school, there is houses, slides, and there's board games, and there's cabinets, there's sleepovers, there's couches, 2 houses, and some computers, and
And so they basically took their perfect school and they shared with their voice of what it was, and it makes it look like the actual picture is talking. So they thought that was really, really cool.
So cool. What is that called again? Or maybe you can spell it. I think I missed it.
Oh, Chatterpix. Here, I can put it in the chat box. And it is free.
Awesome.
Teachers love free things. So it's awesome. We use it too sometimes when we do literacy activities for, let's say, for example, if a character is trying to solve a problem, we will have the students listen to the text, draw a picture of the character, and then record themselves sharing what the problem may be. It is really helpful, too, for those students who are still struggling with writing. It's a way for them to be able to answer the question or the literary term and not be held back by maybe where they are in terms of their writing level right now.
So cool. And tell us a little bit about one of your other morning meetings, blown out knowledge morning meetings.
Yes. So they really wanted to learn about dinosaurs. So we spent a lot of time learning about dinosaurs. It actually turned into a 2-week unit, which was fine because this is all about them and what they want to learn about, and really diving into knowledge and vocabulary. There's so much research behind it. If students are interested in what they're learning about, their reading levels and writing levels are so far exceeded than something that they may not be so inspired by. And so we took a lot of time to learn about dinosaurs, and then we decided to create our own dinosaur based off of what we had learned. So it wasn't just one of these things where they sat down and decided to just draw whatever they wanted. They had to draw a dinosaur based off of what we had learned. So if we learned that herbivore dinosaurs have flat teeth so that they can grind leaves, if they decided their dinosaur was an herbivore, then they would need their picture to have flat teeth. It was a way for me to kind of monitor, like, okay, are we getting things? Or are we just spending all day learning and it's not really going in, And we actually had one of my students take it to the next level. She had clay at home, and she created her own dinosaur out of clay. We had students painting their own dinosaur. It was great.
This is so exciting. My heart is melted. I think the idea of a knowledge morning meeting where you ask kids what they want to learn about and you just do learning, like you said, start with a read aloud, really dig in. It's so cool. I love that so much. I know we're almost out of time. I don't want this to end, but I wanted you to share your other great idea about foundational skills bingo. Adrienne, can you tell us what you've been doing to practice foundational skills?
Of course. So this idea actually came back in the spring when we were virtual, but the students didn't have a ton of technology. And so I was having a lot of students on phones. And so I was having to figure out a way for them to be able to participate in some sort of activity without using the technology because they were using it as a screen. And so I decided to do create your own bingo board with the skills. So in this example on your screen, we were doing R-controlled vowels. And so with IR, ER, and UR, what I do is I give them a choice of words. They fill in their own bingo board based off of their choice of where they want to put each word. And then I read the words off, and they have to cross off their bingo board. So they're able to copy the word down, but then they're having to read it and match to what I say. So if I said flower, they would have to be able to find the word flower. I don't go through and read the words before because I want to make sure that they're really stretching their sounds. And we played this over and over and over again. The students absolutely loved it. And I just said, whenever you have bingo, just come off mute and shout bingo, because they love the idea of being able to shout in class and not get in trouble, which builds a little bit of classroom culture as well.
I love this so much. It really, truly sounds so fun. And what a great way to practice foundational skills where all you need is some access to a couple of key things and you can just get to it. Adrienne, these ideas are amazing. The chat has been popping off with appreciations and connections. Thank you so much for sharing about your Knowledge Morning Meeting and Foundational Skills Bingo.
Of course. Thank you.
We also wanted to just highlight, inspired by Adrienne's Foundational Skills Bingo, one other resource that is in your resource tab. It's called Effective Enhancements, and it's really just ideas to make foundational skills more fun. So it has games and activities like sound riddles, Do you speak robot, whisper it, shout it? I was just making a connection to Adrian's comment about how kids love to get loud sometimes. So Whisper It, Shout It is a game that sort of plays on that. But feel free to check that out if you're looking for ways to up the fun in your foundational skills instruction. I know we're almost out of time today, depending on your time zone or when you're watching this. There were so many amazing things shared, and the last resource that's in your resource widget is a survey that you can use to tell us a little bit more about things that you might be doing that we should know about so we can elevate them in our network. So if you want to share some of your K-2 teacher knowledge, please go ahead and fill out this quick survey. Or if you know a great teacher who is doing something amazing with virtual instruction, send them the survey. We'd love to hear and highlight ideas within our network so we can keep learning together. The last thing that we'd love to remind you is if you didn't sign up to join us for our network, we'd love for you to. You can find us at Achieve the Core. That's our website where those early reading accelerators pages are. And we're also on Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. You can see there's a QR code that will be disappearing shortly because I don't want to keep you over, but there it is. And we have another webinar coming up in October. It's on Thursday, October 22nd. It's all about fractions. So if you are a teacher that or an educator that deals with fractions, please join us. This is another one of our critical content collections. Thank you so much to everyone who came here today, gave a little bit of your time to learn and support one another. Huge thank you to my partner, Adrian, and especially to the 4 teachers that we had here today. Your ideas were so priceless. I'm excited to keep thinking about them, iterating on them, and just really appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone, so much. Be well, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Thank you.